Instagram. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Nelson from Central Florida, and we are having today on the Kills Health live stream our friend Lynn DeVoki.
Hello.
Where are you today, Lynn?
I am in rainy Washington in the
Okay.
Pacific Northwest, and it is definitely raining. So I spent 2 weeks in Florida just recently, and I am really missing the sunshine.
How long after? I know you were gonna. Your husband told me you were gonna stay a little bit after the Hack Your Health. How
Yeah,
long were you here altogether?
two
Two
weeks.
weeks.
Two
Okay.
weeks, yeah. So we arrived. So Hack Your Health was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We arrived the previous Tuesday, and then we
Okay.
stayed till 2 Tuesdays afterwards. And yeah, loved it. It's like the winters in Florida are like summers here in Washington. So it was like we were back in our own summertime. I completely see why people are snowbirds and they fly down and spend the winter there because it's amazing. Every day barefoot on the beach and enjoying the sunshine. It was wonderful.
Where are you originally from?
California.
Where in California? Northern,
Central Valley.
Central
And
Valley.
I
Yeah.
was born in the Bay Area. I was born in Oakland at the Naval Hospital, which has been demolished since, but lived in Fremont in California. And then at age 7, my family moved to the Central Valley. So I am officially, I am a Valley girl.
Okay.
I have never talked like one. I don't fit the stereotype, although I used to be super blonde, but I
So
never fit that.
the valley you're talking about is San Fernando Valley, right?
No, that's
No.
farther south.
Oh,
I
okay.
grew up in Stanislaus County, which is basically the very center of the state of California.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at like San Francisco, it's maybe an hour and a half inland from San Francisco and about um maybe the same distance to get to like Yosemite National Park. We're kind of right in the middle.
All right. I was once in Yosemite National Park. I was once in San Francisco, the crookiest street.
Yeah, Lombard Street.
So Alcatraz,
Yep, I've been there too.
and we stayed in a motel in Oakland
Mhm.
across the bay, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And we moved in Washington in 2013. So we've been here since then. And I absolutely love the beauty of Washington and I love the mild weather because I live in the Puget Sound area. Um and I don't mind the rain. The heat in the Central Valley of California was really intense and with my mast activation syndrome and my heat intolerance, it was really challenging for me. So this is definitely a better climate for me.
All right. So let's get into this. You were with us a few months ago, but for those who may not know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a brief history of what's happened to you before and after changing your diet and the health improvements you've had, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about addictions and a book you have there. Okay.
Sure.
So
So,
just let me know when if you want me to bring the pictures on stage.
yeah, sure, no problem. So I'm 57 years old. I'm a wife. I'm a mother of three, grandmother of three and a half. My youngest daughter is pregnant with her first child. Three other grandchildren from my oldest daughter. All my kids are married, and I have a little furry 17-year-old dog named Max, who is just like the Energizer Bunny. This dog just keeps going. But I spent my career in two areas. I was actually a corporate accountant, but then later I became a registered nurse and I got my bachelor's degree in nursing from Fresno State in California. And I worked in cardiac progressive care, which is a step down from the ICU. And then I started to develop I didn't know at the time that I had mast cell activation syndrome. It was not very well known, and I think it's kind of becoming a little more known now. But I had started having symptoms in my 20s of heat intolerance, exercise intolerance, um, getting very or severely ill with heat, and incredibly drained and kind of disabled with any sort of intense exercise. I also had developed fertility problems. I had PCOS. And then in my 30s, I was experiencing issues with mental health. Actually, these started in my 20s. Sorry, I got to silence my phone. Um, Started in my 20s. I started having severe panic attacks. They would wake me up in the middle of the night. So I'd be even really relaxed in the middle of the night. I'd have a panic attack in my sleep. And so I knew there was some imbalance going on. Something was wrong. But I was gaining weight, and I was seeking out energy because my energy was always incredibly low. And I was always seeking out energy in food and eating wrong foods. And then I would try to eat healthy. I had lost some weight on a zone diet back in my late 20s, early 30s. But man, it was hard. All the tracking. But I did end up with the mental illness. I ended up in a psychiatric hospital in my early 30s, and anxiety was the primary thing for me. But they did diagnose me with depression as well. They diagnosed me with like social anxiety disorder, which I don't necessarily know if that was a correct diagnosis, but it took quite a few years of being on medication, dealing with a psychiatrist and a psychologist, therapy before I do feel like I mostly healed from that. But in my 40s, when I was working as a nurse and getting on in my 40s, I started having more and more severe symptoms and scarier symptoms. Like I would have started having throat swelling episodes, severe tachycardia, severe stroke level hypertension. Um, my gut started having problems, irritable bowel syndrome, just a lot of cramping, nausea. And I started having lot of issues with my skin as well. And also heart palpitations, bladder issues. I mean, the symptoms go head to toe. Anyone who knows me, look at my channel. But I was also becoming more and more obese. Um, I was getting injured, and I got injured at work. And so that's why I ended up getting out of the hospital, and I went to work outpatient nursing in gastroenterology and hepatology. So that's where I ended my career until my symptoms ended up flaring. I ended up getting a diagnosis in 2022 of mast cell activation syndrome. And also through genetic testing, I learned I have a kind of related condition called hereditary alpha tryptopenia. And those two conditions together just account for basically all of my symptoms for my whole life. And I had been misdiagnosed so many times. I'd gone to 17 different types of doctors, had gotten a variety of diagnoses, um, and treatment never worked, or I had big question marks like, we don't know what's wrong with you. All of your labs, your diagnostics are fine. But it's when I started having a bunch of trips to the ER because of these anaphylactic type reactions that I finally had a doctor who ordered the right tests that led me in the direction of getting a proper diagnosis.
And when was that? About a year?
So it was ongoing. So I think the first time I actually had the serum tryptase test was about 2015 or 16. And nothing really came of it for quite a long time because, if you have suspected mast cell issues, what they want you to do is they want you to wait till you have a reaction and then go get testing done, get another serum tryptase done, and do a 24-hour urine collection. So I had the orders from the doctor. I ended up having my reactions on vacation, and I couldn't do it. And also, when I'm doubled over in pain, because a lot of times my reaction also came with severe abdominal pain. And when I was done, and I'm very stubborn, and I wasn't going to call 911 unless I had the throat swelling, but very often I would have just the severe body pain and severe abdominal pain. And so I would just double over in pain and I'd lay down and I wouldn't call 911. And so it took like 5 years or more for me to finally break down and pursue it.
And I just have to say, it is typical for nurses and doctors to be stubborn about
yeah,
sometimes our own issues.
yeah. I mean, there's a reason why there's a saying that doctors and nurses make the worst patients, and it's so true. So yeah, so I could have, and honestly, if I had had a diagnosis earlier on, I don't know if it would have led me in the same direction as it did when I finally got my diagnosis. Because very soon, within a few months after I got the diagnosis, which was in February of 22, um, in in June of 22, I ended up with a very severe flare up of the mast cell activation syndrome and had to go on medical leave at work. And I spent a year doing nothing but getting worse. And during that period of time, my weight had maxed out somewhere. I quit weighing myself at 350 pounds. So I don't know where I ended up. It was probably somewhere between 350 and 360. And if you want to pull up my pictures, you can do that. And I ended up with the most horrific rosacea as well. But that was right. These pictures were taken maybe within a month of when I started carnivore. Um, the one on the right is me trying to look happy. I didn't know someone was taking that picture. And one thing that you don't see in that picture, and I do have the full picture, is two normal sized women sitting next to me. And I look enormous. And someone took this picture of me at a baby shower. And when I saw it, it was posted on a group uh, app for our church. And I was mortified when I saw myself next to these normal size women. But yeah, I was very, very, very obese. And then the next picture, I think, is the picture of my rosacea, if you wanted to pull that up.
You have to, let's see.
You
No.
can just
I,
there.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So my face, it wasn't always this bad. It kind of waxed and waned as far as severity, but this was, in general, this is what my face would look like. And it was very difficult socially because you can't hide it with makeup. It's just too difficult to, no, makeup doesn't cover it. And so I was very self-conscious about my face. And I did have a doctor put me on, and that picture there is like probably a year old. So, but obviously I've lost weight.
And
Uh,
I can attest, you look a lot even better than that because I just saw you a couple of weeks ago. Uh,
yeah, so I'm continuing to lose weight. It has slowed down, but the biggest thing for me is just the healing. Um, So about a year into medical leave, my husband brought me a video of somebody who had healed on carnivore. And I was familiar and had actually been on carnivore before, but I thought it was just for weight loss. And so I learned that it as actually for healing. I didn't know that before. And so I was very desperate. Oh, hi, Juliet. I was very desperate, and I could see everything in my future was pointing towards me being completely dependent on my family. My mobility was very impaired. I was really struggling to even walk, and I was so reactive. And I never knew when I was going to have a reaction and end up in the ER. And the doctor that I was working with really wasn't very helpful. Just threw me on some medication, said, "Come back and see me if you don't feel better in a few months," and which is very typical with a lot of doctors. And I just felt like I need more, and so of course I dug in and did my own research and learned as much as I could from some of the experts on mast cell activation syndrome, and realized that histamine is a big factor, can be a big factor, and for me it turned out to be a huge factor. So I did go on carnivore. I started seeing some results and I started losing some weight. My inflammation was like almost gone in about 3 days. My gut had settled down in about 3 days as well. and the cramping and the bloating and the gas, it all settled down, which was, as a GI nurse, for me, that was just a huge light bulb. And but the picture of me with the rosacea, that was like 4 months or so into the carnivore diet. And that's when I realized I made my histamine video. It was a big reminder for myself that, okay, wait a minute, Lynn, you know you need to be watching your histamine. Something in my brain was like, oh, I'm going to go carnivore. I don't need to worry about histamine. And then I realized, no, no, absolutely. You still have to worry about histamine. You just have to focus it and hone it in on the carnivore specific, foods. So I was making my histamine video when it was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not low histamine anymore. I was trying to do low histamine before I went carnivore, and it was kind of helping a little bit. But once I went low histamine lion diet, that's when things took a major, major turn in the right direction. And the healing has been unbelievable since then.
How long ago was that video that you mentioned?
Probably maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 2 years. Yeah. So, and I know that I get a lot of feedback on that video that there's and I appreciate you promoting it. I really do, because it's good.
I certainly do every time someone asks, but I have gone ahead and done something. So I'm preparing a lecture for my coaching course with Kilts Health, our health certification, health coaching certification course. And I prepare a lecture on histamine intolerance and MCAS.
Good.
So I'll send you. I have a video already, and I have the basic booklet that I'm going to use.
Excellent.
And anyways, it's not going to be one of the main topics on the course. I'm just going to put it as a bonus lecture. Anyways.
Excellent. Well, I am on my to-do list. I'm going to be creating a histamine course as well for Healing Humanity Life, our membership site for Healing Humanity. And so it's going to be more, it's going to be, the scope of it is going to be broader than my histamine video that I did for my YouTube channel. It's not going to be tremendously broader, but it will be broader. There's other topics I'm going to cover that are related to histamine.
All right. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat with a QQQ in front of it so I don't miss it. And let's switch gears a little bit, because a lot of people know you because of the histamine issues and other associated problems, but you are part of the Healing Humanity team that have created the Healing Humanity.live community.
Right.
And you're involved with the documentary and the activities and all of that. Tell us about your position and what do you do for Healing Humanity?
It morphs over time, to be honest. So initially, when I came on board with the team, there was not a ton of structure. It was just kind of more in the early phases of it. And so I'm kind of the type of person that I kind of see a need and fill it. And so I initially jumped in with going through the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of testimonials that had been submitted, people who wanted to share their story in the documentary. And so initially that was my job, was to go through all of those. And there were videos, there were written testimonials, and to just kind of organize and classify them. Then I developed a team of people that the people who we felt their stories might be very powerful for the documentary, we would set up interviews with them. These were not published interviews. These were solely for the purpose of screening them for Carrie and Adam. And, I had a whole list of questions that we need to make sure we checked. And so I had a team of 5 people, including myself, that we did these interviews. And then over time, and of course I go to the meetups. We kind of morphed as a team. We brought in Ashley Rogers, who now schedules our meetups and plans our meetups, and he's amazing. He does such a great job. And then, as you know, our documentary is completely crowd funded. And so Adam is like the brainchild of Healing Humanity, the membership site, healinghumanity.life, um, because he's very proactive in his thinking. His thinking is, once the documentary comes out, we're hoping to have an influx of people that need help getting started on carnivore. And your community, our community, there's so many communities out there. We're all available to help. But we figure that there's probably going to be people seeking out help from us because of the documentary itself. And so Adam said, let's get this community started, to where we can do two things. First of all, start out already helping people. And part of the funds from membership goes to the documentary itself. And so it kind of helps a little bit with the crowdfunding, gives us an opportunity to interact one-on-one with people, provide education and help and resources for people. So I am one of the site administrators for the site. And yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. They did film me in June. And after filming, Carrie decided that my story was going to be one of the featured stories in the documentary. So there's Bill Knott, there's myself, there's Jeff DeProsperous, and maybe Maggie might be kind of a featured story. So those are going to be like the featured stories in the documentary. So I am not going to get a chance to see any of my story, and I've chosen not to. Like, they've asked me, so if I want to see it, and I said no, I don't want to see it. I want to wait. I want to see the documentary at the premiere as the first time I see it. And so I'm super excited. And the work I've been doing with Healing Humanity has been, it's to me, it's given me a mission. Like, I'm not going to go back into nursing. I could never go back to be a GI nurse now that I know what I know. So it's given me a mission and a purpose.
So if you guys want to go and see her YouTube channel, it's at Midlife Carnivore in YouTube, and you can see the external changes, right? We can go through, you've been documenting for a long time, but tell me about what the things we cannot see on just the pictures. What changes were unexpected, and what changes have been profound?
My brain. And that's one of the things that I do talk about very often when people ask me this question. Because when I was getting sicker and sicker and still were a movie star. Oh, no, please. I'm such an introvert in reality. But when I was getting sicker and sicker and working as a nurse, and I was working exclusively from home at that time, it was during the pandemic. I had the ability to work from home, and the heat from my breath from a mask caused an anaphylactic reaction. So I had to work from home, but I was still getting sicker and sicker. I was pushing through all of my symptoms, even when I was nauseated and had cramping and was dizzy, and I had all these symptoms, but my brain was still working and I was able to help patients. So I started having brain issues and I couldn't think, and my brain would freeze. My words would come out slurred. I couldn't find my words. And that's when I knew I wasn't safe anymore to work as a nurse. And I had to go on medical leave. That was the deciding factor for me. And so one thing you can't see in the pictures is that my brain works again. And honestly, no matter what goes on with the body, if your brain isn't working, to me, that was the scariest thing. And obviously, I can talk now. So, yeah, I'm coherent. At least I hope I am.
Yes, you are. I am sorry. I'm just sending a message to Alia. Is getting some spam on a channel that I
Yeah.
cannot control from here.
Ah,
Anyways, so I have, please, if you have any questions for Lynn, put them in the chat. I've seen a couple of you have made some comments, and I tried to highlight some of those. But this question actually takes us to the other thing I want to talk about. Now, on the Healing Humanity Live community, you do, what is it, like 14 Zoom calls every week?
no, not that many, but we have calls every day except for Saturday, and there's
Okay.
several. Most days we have 2 calls.
Okay.
So there's, I think, maybe 11 calls, like 2 calls. Yeah, so somewhere around there. I
All
lose
right.
track because we've added a book club just recently, so that's like an additional Zoom call that we have now, and we are
Okay.
starting Dr. Georgia Eads' book, and she's going to be coming on next Wednesday too to talk
Oh,
with us.
okay. I'll try to be there. Uh, but you do, one of the many Zoom calls and groups that you have is the Breaking Addictions group. Is
Right.
that what it's called? That
Right.
what?
It's called
Yeah.
Breaking Addictions.
Okay. So let me bring this question here. What books has Lynn written? Is Coach Juliet Eden's question.
Well, several, because it started out with children's books for carnivore, along with my co-author Amy Hosp. We co-wrote. We have, I think, 7 books,
A
and
bunch.
yeah, yeah. So we've got a bunch of children's books out there that are focused on. They're not hardcore carnivore because we don't want to scare parents away and think that we're
Of course.
telling them not to feed your children, you know, produce. They are really, they're emphasizing, like, trying not to scare children from and parents from beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. So beef, bacon, butter, and eggs are our superheroes, and promoting the benefits of those foods as superfoods, but also educating about the dangers of sugar and processed foods and seed oils and additives, chemicals, that sort of thing. So we don't demonize produce in these foods, in these books, for children. So I understand that there's adults that are so sick that we can't have the produce, like myself, or anything like that, grains,
Mhm.
nuts. I'm strict carnivore. But then after our Breaking Addictions group
Have
started.
have a question before. Sorry
Oh,
to
sure.
interrupt. If someone wanted to buy any of those children's books, where do they go?
They are all available on Amazon,
Okay.
and you can look under my name if you can know how to spell it, Lynn Divoky, Divoky. But I always tell people almost all of them you'll find by looking at Amy Hosp, Hosp. But there's one I wrote and illustrated completely by myself. So maybe look up both of us.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
All right. So you were talking about the Breaking
Yeah.
Addictions.
And the
Some.
Breaking Addictions book is available under my name as well. So, what happened with our Breaking Addictions group, and we did have one of our members come and ask me, can we start a 12-step program within your membership site? And we said, yes, absolutely. So, initially, it was over a year ago, we started out using Alcoholics Anonymous literature, and it was called Back to Basics. It's kind of an accelerated program for people who really need help quickly going through the 12 steps. And so we as a group went through that one time, and the feedback was, it's hard to go through this from a carnivore perspective when it's so focused on alcohol. And there's some principles that, we can't really relate to. And so I took it upon myself to write a book for our group, which is Breaking Addictions. And the format is still based on the Back to Basics program, where you're going through the 12 steps in 4 sessions. You don't have to. You can go through them one at a time. And we have now step study programs and where we go through one step at a time. But the book is laid out so that it's designed to go through in a group. So you read aloud. There's part where the group leaders introduce themselves, but you can go through it individually. The biggest thing is you need to make sure you have a sponsor, or as we have called it, an accountability partner who has gone through 12 steps and understands them. You do not have to join our membership site in order to utilize the book. Create your own group. But it does have daily reflection questions in the book. And if you want to use this and just have a notebook, you can. But if you prefer, I do have an accompanying optional workbook. And this workbook allows you to go through the whole 12-step program 4 times. And so for people who've gone through 12-step programs, you don't go through it once. The first time, you're just peeling back the first layer of that onion. Each of these is $10. I've made it really affordable for anybody who wants to start going through and working through their addiction problems with food. And it's focused on carnivore and keto. It's not strictly carnivore. It's basically the ketogenic lifestyle.
So you have one call a week, every week?
5.
5.
Yes.
On
breaking addictions.
On the breaking addictions. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing with anonymous programs, the 12 steps, is that people who are struggling with addiction really need as much accountability and support as possible, because one day a week, it's a daily struggle, right? So I mean, hopefully eventually one day we'll be able to have 7 days a week, but right now it's based on the leaders that we have available. So we have Monday and Tuesday, we have step study groups, each of them led by a different leader. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have fellowship groups where you go through some of the material, but that's the opportunity to share and to discuss topics and everything. So yeah, Monday through Friday we have groups.
So you mentioned you don't have to be part of the community, but if someone wanted to be part of the community, what do they do?
So you go to healinghumanity.life and you just register. And what I would recommend is you can either take a look at my channel. In my description of my videos, I have a coupon code for half off of your first month. You could go to Homestead How, look at our Thursday lives at Carrie's channel. He's always got coupon codes as well. So, and it is $30 a month as far as the membership fee goes. And that is because, of course, it takes money to have a platform, but it's also, the money goes towards the documentary. And so our goal is to create an opportunity for people to come in for free if they just want to do the breaking addictions. And that is in the future. We just have to vet out a few things with the attorneys that we work with and make sure we're doing it right. But eventually the goal is to make the group accessible to everybody throughout the whole carnivore keto community. But I wouldn't let that stop people from starting a group.
So you can join the community. I think it's beyond value because it's not that expensive. I think the regular price is $30 a month.
Right.
And then you have a bunch of resources, and there's some free resources. All the Zoom call membership groups are included in that. And then you can buy Lynn's books and go through the 12 steps. So
yeah,
tell us a little bit more about the book and the chapters, and give us a little summary of what to expect?
Well, for anyone who's been in like an Overeaters Anonymous group, um, which I have, I've been through 12-step programs, I've been through Celebrate Recovery through my church. Um, when it comes to like OA, there's the focus is very much on counting calories, restrictive eating, willpower. And I've found that it can be really challenging to try. I mean, as you know, I mean, when you're still trying to eat the standard American diet and trying to just be restrictive about it and not overeat, which is like, that's the Overeaters Anonymous. Is the assumption is we are all overeating, which we are. We're eating the wrong foods. But with my book, there's a lot of grace. And one of the problems with the 12-step program is that when you get to step 4, that's the part where you do your basically it's kind of the brutal like personal inventory. You're looking at yourself very honestly and kind of just like these are my flaws. These are my character flaws. These are my problems that I have. It's very self-reflective. And it's also very difficult. And it's really important to do this with your sponsor or accountability partner because they can ask you the prompting questions to really help you dig in to what the kind of more root cause of why we have this addiction. Like, what are the triggers? What are the things going on in your life? What relationships have been harmed as a result of this? And sometimes it's your relationship with yourself that you need to start with. But people tend to get stuck a lot of times in that step. And then they get stuck in step 9. Step 9 is the step of making amends, where in the anonymous programs, they want you to go. Like, they want you to take all your, whoever you harmed, what you figured out in step 4, they want you to go and make amends unless it's going to hurt that person with in step 9. And anonymous programs lose a lot of people in one of those 2 steps. And so when I wrote this book, my approach was to be a little more gentle about it, with the expectation that people are going to go through this many times and they're going to be working with their sponsor. And so, yes, you're going to dig deep on step 4, but it's very clear we don't want you to be afraid because we're going to have you do your amends in layers. And so, first time you may just be making amends with yourself. And so it's very much more gentle approach than a lot of anonymous programs. And because it doesn't really help if you don't finish, if you don't go through the whole program. And so the 12 steps are meant to be worked and they're meant to be incorporated into your life and become a habit. And as soon as you maybe struggle with a temptation or you're struggling emotionally, you have a stressor in your life, it's supposed to be something that you can fall back on and you can go back through them in your mind. You could go back through in the book. And if you don't finish, that's not going to happen. When it comes to 12-step programs, the key is being able to finish, go through all 12 steps. And then eventually the 12th step is service. So eventually the goal is to be able to serve and help others go through the 12 steps. So the book is written from that perspective. It's written from the perspective that often as carnivores and people on a ketogenic lifestyle, we don't necessarily have to focus so much on things like overeating because we have a lot more freedom. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to still work the steps because so often people will just trade one addiction for another. We will maybe get control of our eating and carnivore helps. It really helps settle that down. But so often people will trade one addiction for another. And so going through these 12 steps helps because we don't just focus on food. It makes you dig in and focus on other areas too.
So some of us can moderate and some of us can't. And our best strategy is abstinence, Talk
Right.
to me a little bit about those two things.
Well, based on everything that I know, someone who's truly an addict cannot moderate. It's like asking an alcoholic to just moderate their alcohol intake. There is it's in the brain, and the triggers in your brain. If you drink alcohol, you're an alcoholic, you're a true addict. It's going to trigger your brain to want more and to not stop. And so many of us who are food addicts know the same. How many times have you tried to moderate and it's failed? I've experienced that myself so many times. One thing starts the avalanche. And so how many times have I had to ended up worse off? And mostly what happens to people is that they relapse and they end up worse than they were before. So the first step, of course, is understanding that you have an addiction. And we know that there are diagnostic criteria for addiction. I don't necessarily think that, I mean, it's not like getting a diagnosis of, say, cirrhosis, where you've got imaging, right? You can tell you got cirrhosis.
Mhm.
Diagnosing addiction is more challenging because it's based on somebody not being in denial. It's also based on people being honest. So it's very difficult to necessarily get that diagnosis, but I think people, if they're honest, can know that they're an addict.
The problem with food addiction, as opposed to almost every other kind of addiction, for most people, uh, abstinence work, right? But
Yeah,
with food addiction, you can have addictive behavior even with the foods you have decided you're going to eat,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
And I've never thought of me of having any type of food addiction, but I have to really be careful paying attention to my cues when I'm eating because I can overeat.
Right.
Okay, I was raised uh, by two parents of the depression. They were children
Yep.
of the depression, and you had to finish everything on your plate. And
Yeah.
to this day, I have difficulty leaving some food on the plate because they're children in used to be called Biafra at the time uh, that were hungry. So that was the reasoning of
Right.
you have to
I grew up
finish.
hearing that as well.
Yeah. So sometimes you're eating the right foods that you don't have problems with, they are healthy for you, but you could actually end up overeating
Right.
foods
Right.
that are okay. And with, you have to eat. So
Yeah.
it
It
is really difficult if you have a food addiction
yeah.
to do it. So
It
this is where community also helps.
yes, yes. And support is so important. And with carnivore, it's easier not to overeat because the fat really triggers your satiety. And so that's why carnivore is a really wonderful tool. And it is a tool.
Mhm.
It's when it comes to addiction. You have to still address these other issues and areas of your life, but it's an amazing tool to help. And because when you're eating carbs, you miss those signals that you're full and you're done eating, and it's just so much easier when you're not eating carbs. And it's not the cure all for addiction, but it's an absolutely wonderful tool to help. But yeah, but like for myself, I still have to remind myself I cannot eat carbs. There's times, and of course we hear about people bringing carbs in as carnivores, but those of us who are addicted, to me, that's not even an option because I know that that's just going to spiral me right back to where I was.
Where does forgiveness and gratitude play into this?
It's all through my book. Absolutely, because it's so important. And many times it starts with forgiving yourself. And so when you go through step 4 and you do what they call a fearless moral inventory, it can be painful because you have to admit your own role in the problems in your life. So, for example, if somebody is going through this moral inventory and they want to address, say, the problems that they have with their spouse, a good accountability partner is going to ask you to identify your role in the problem. That's hard, but that's really important to do because you can't control what someone else does, and nothing is ever one sided. So it's really important to identify what is my role in this conflict. And that's where then forgiveness has to come into play. Sometimes you have to start with forgiving yourself before you can forgive other people. And so we focus on, let's start there. Forgive yourself and, don't hang on to it, but then do something about it. Move on. And that's where step 9 comes in, where you actually go through and you actually do make the amends. Gratitude is throughout because you have to be grateful for the things that are going well. You can't just focus on the struggles and the negative. You have to be grateful. And so there's definitely a focus on gratitude. And gratitude is healing as well. It helps your brain, it helps your mind to have positivity and to keep you encouraged as you go through the process.
So you have a workbook along with this book, and basically journaling is, this is a form of journaling. You're putting down to paper the things you're asking yourself and the steps you're going through. Do you do any besides that booklet, for example? Do you personally do any journaling?
I do off and on.
Okay.
Um, so and for some people, journaling is super critical, and I've done a ton of journaling in the past. I have transitioned from journaling as much to speaking with people, and I have my people that I can talk to. And so journaling is a way of getting your thoughts and your emotions onto paper, and speaking verbally can do that as well, as long as you have somebody that you can talk to, that you can trust. So I find that with myself, verbal communication has replaced a lot of the journaling.
Um, this has been modeled, this group and the book, on the 12 steps program, like you said. And someone's asking here, what about internet addiction?
It's one of those things that a lot of people have. We probably all experience it to some degree or another. Any addiction that you have, you can work through the 12 steps and address. But like you mentioned before, support is so important. Doing it alone is not recommended. You need to get the support. And if you want to address the internet addiction, work the 12 steps. The 12 steps are not just for alcohol or food. They're for anything. Anything that's impacting your life negatively, you can go work the 12 steps. So, hello. Moderating is not my thing. Yes, yes. I'm with you there for sure.
I believe I may be wrong, but I believe today is day number 3 on Jerry's long annual fasting.
Oh,
She does 40 days every year.
wonderful. Wonderful. That is brave. I have not done more than a 3-day fast myself.
Uh, does fasting cause you any problems, or you just haven't taken the?
I
By the
did.
way, I don't think you have to do any prolonged fasting. I think 1, 2, or 3 day fasting on a regular basis, it's probably all you need. But
Yeah, yeah. I do eating windows. a lot, mostly like a 6-hour eating window. But there are, and I do really well with that. I tend to vary what I do because I don't want my body to get stuck in a pattern and go, okay, I get what you're doing. Now I'm going to cling on to the weight. I'm going to just kind of stop. And your body adjusts, right, to what you're doing.
Hmm.
So I mix things up all the time. So sometimes I eat twice a day and I go ahead and allow myself to have breakfast and then have a dinner a little bit later. Other times I'll do a 24-hour fast. I have struggled with more prolonged fasting. But I think it may be because I haven't practiced it enough, and I know that my naturopathic doctor wants me to do more, so it's something I'm working on.
All right. Well, I mean, like I said, probably nobody needs to do prolonged fasting, let's say 7 days or longer.
No,
Um,
I don't think I will do that.
but
I'm
certainly a
on
one
now.
day fast a week,
Yeah,
that shouldn't be too difficult. Maybe 3 days a month, 72 hours every
yeah,
month. I think if you do it on a regular basis, that provides benefits.
yeah.
And I don't really think you need to do prolonged fasting on a regular basis. That is very hard.
Yeah, I found it harder than some others. I don't get that great energy that a lot of people talk about. Now, one thing that I have done recently is I had a strategy report done that I paid for. I grabbed my genetics off of ancestry.com, the results, and got a strategy report where it gave me an analysis of my genetic variants. Not every one of them is significant, not every one of them is expressed, but it did explain a ton of what's going on with my body. And so I actually have a very customized protocol of supplements that I've started that are specific to my genetics. And I'm hoping that, and I just started this like yesterday. I ordered everything, ran it past my doctor, got the thumbs up approval. And there's things that my body doesn't do well. Like I have the MTHFR variant. My body doesn't process B vitamins very well, doesn't break down homocysteine well. I've got a bunch of others, some related to melatonin, caffeine. There's a bunch. But I'm hoping that if these things that I'm basically doing an N=1 experiment on myself with this customized list. I'm hoping that I might be able to fast better if these things work for me really well. So we'll see.
All right. Coach Juliet Edens mentions, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. We would appreciate it. Um, so let me see if we don't have any questions on Instagram. What's what's in the future for Lynn?
Hmm. Well, so as you know, I'm going through the Nutrition Network certification course, as you are as well. So right now, a lot of studying, a lot of expanding my learning, knowing that I'm not going to go back into nursing. I still want to help people, and that's the big thing with me. And so, um, coaching. A lot of people have asked me if I do coaching, and yes, I have helped some people. I've done some help explain labs. I do help people on our membership site, but I'm taking it to the next level by getting the education, and there will be coaching in my future. A lot of traveling with Healing Humanity. And once the documentary comes out, like it's in editing phases right now, it's supposed to come out in 2026. I honestly have no clue what my life is going to look like. Um, yeah, I'm a little
Uh,
nervous, to be honest.
As you probably know or remember, I'm 65. So I never thought about, okay, when I get to 65, I'm gonna retire. I'm always learning. I enjoy learning. So uh, I have someone who seems to be a nurse here, and she or him. Let's see, K, I guess is a female.
I would say
So
that's
it
a
has
nurse. All right.
RN at the end, and she put ketoacidosis. So I don't know if she has a question
Hmm,
about ketoacidosis or if it's
sure.
part of a conversation. But please, if you have a question about ketoacidosis and the difference between ketosis and ketoacidosis,
Yeah, and there are
put it in
people
the chat.
who, there are definitely people who are nervous about the risk for ketoacidosis when you are dealing with being in ketosis. And as you know, that's incredibly low risk because you're really, even a diabetic, a type 2 diabetic, doesn't really have to worry about it. It's really type 1 diabetics that have very, very low, like no ability to produce insulin. Occasionally, someone else may experience it, but it is not really a risk when it comes to a ketogenic diet when your body is able to produce insulin. And maybe you can provide a little more insight into that if I've missed anything.
No, no, you. I have never seen anyone that went on a ketogenic diet and developed ketoacidosis.
Right.
Okay, diabetic ketoacidosis specifically. Now there is a medication in the market, very effective
Correct.
for diabetes, and there's they are the SGLT2 inhibitors, and they by themselves can produce what we call a euglycemic ketoacidosis. In other words, you don't go into ketoacidosis whether you're type 1 or type 2. You don't go into ketoacidosis unless your blood sugars are high and you have no insulin.
Right.
So that's a situation where very often in adolescents, they don't want to use the insulin, and they stop using or underdose, and the blood sugars. I mean, that's a circumstance where you develop
Right.
diabetic ketoacidosis. But these medications, Jardiance, Farxiga, Invokana, and I always forget the other one. I think there are 4 in the market that can produce a euglycemic ketoacidosis. It doesn't matter with what diet. It's not
Right.
specific to the ketogenic diet, but whenever I find someone who's trying to do a ketogenic diet and they are on the medication, I give them the big warning. You
Yeah.
you need to go talk to your doctor right now. Send them a message, because if you're attempting a ketogenic diet and on top of that you're using any of these medications, you could run into
Right.
trouble. It's
And
not because of the diet, it's
right.
because of the
It's
medication.
the mechanism of action of that particular class of medication that suppresses your insulin. So you're right. Any diet, it can put you at risk for that. So anybody who is diabetic of any kind, and you want to go on a ketogenic diet, you need to be making sure you're communicating with your doctor. And hopefully your doctor's familiar with ketosis versus ketoacidosis, which I'm sure they
Ketoacidosis,
will
yes.
be. But don't do it on your own. Don't ever wean off of your medication on your own. Work with your doctor.
And I don't happen to have this up right now, so I'm not going to be able to try to find it. But if you want to learn more about ketoacidosis and ketosis, I have a whole class in the Kills Health coaching certification course that we go over that, and we go in detail.
Yeah, and it's an important distinction, and it's an important question, and it should not be something that we're ignorant of.
And I don't know if she's talking to me or you, but I guess we saw her in Tampa. Hack Your Health.
Hope to see you in Tampa. Maybe next year. Maybe this
Oh,
coming year.
hope to see you in Tampa. Okay, maybe next year.
Yeah. And someone was asking me, Jerry was asking me about the house. Did you see that at 55 to the hour? There's a comment from Carnivore Jerry about house because we're moving. So I can give a quick update. So yes, so we are in contract on 28 acres, and it's got a crazy house that's a Frank Lloyd Wright style house that like literally probably no one else in the world would buy, because there is not a right angle in this entire house. It has never been updated since it was built in 1979. Like, it still has the original shag carpet, original appliances, original everything. We are crazy. We're buying this property, and we're moving there with my daughter and son-in-law. It's got an apartment upstairs. It's got a big shop. Beautiful, beautiful property. Anyways, we did sell our house. We got a full price offer on our current house. The people who are buying our house just have to sell theirs. We're not going to do like a domino of contingencies. They can't accept a contingent offer on their house. So we're waiting for them to get an offer and to get in contract on their house. And then everything goes full steam ahead, moving, getting packed, and going to make the move. And then remodeling this house is going to be intense. So,
All righty. And when you come and spend your winters in Florida, I guess we are sort of neighbors because you're in the same county I am.
excellent, excellent. And we're planning on being back there for Hack Your Health again next year. And yeah, it's going to be tempting. My husband and I didn't want to leave and come back here. So we'll see how we may end up spending even more time next year.
All right. I am trying to bring up your
Oh,
channel.
so Bob says changing a Frank Lloyd Wright house should not be allowed. We're not going to change it. We're going to just update it. So I just want to make sure, Bob, don't worry. We're going to stick with what is still within the realm of Frank Lloyd Wright. All the angles are still going to be there. And yeah, but we just would like to not have shag carpet that's that old. We want to do so. He goes, phew. Yeah. So have no fear. The goal eventually is the upstairs is to be an Airbnb. So it has a beautiful rooftop deck, beautiful view. You can come rent it out, stay with us. Bob, if you come, we won't charge you. You can hang out.
All right. Midlife Carnivore is your YouTube channel. Is it the same in other social network
Yes.
platforms?
Yeah. Me and social media, I'm not like crazy with it, but I do have an Instagram, which I post to every once in a while, and it's the same, Midlife Carnivore.
All righty. Well, we are past 4 o'clock. Thank you for being here, Lynn, and I'll
Thank
be
you for
talking to
inviting me.
you. I do. Do we have something tonight or not? Thursday
It,
night.
well, yeah. So normally we would, but the
All right.
Mann family is traveling and they're going on a cruise. So while they're on their cruise, the live Q&A is not going to happen because
Okay.
Jen has probably threatened Carrie within an inch of his life that he needs to stay off social media on the cruise. So we're going to help support her.
All righty. So I had Jen, by the way, on Tuesday here with us.
Yeah.
She had, besides Carrie's live stream, she had not done a live stream for anyone else.
Oh, wow.
So
So
she
very
was
nice.
with us on Tuesday.
Yeah. So if any
Anyway,
of you guys see Carrie live while he's on his cruise, tell him, go get off the internet and go spend time with your family.
all righty. Well, thank you for being here, Lynn. Everybody, thank you for being here as well. I'll see some of you at 5:30. We do have a Zoom call in our community at 5:30. And those who are not going to be in the Zoom call, see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. with Dr. Kills and Alia in the same channels. Have a good day.
Have a
And
great
eat
day, everybody.
steak.
Yes, eat your steak.